So tell us why you're here today.
Well, I'm a hedge-layer and I work on farms throughout Suffolk and Norfolk. And if you look at my job, it relies wholly upon farming being in a good financial place. And as soon as farming isn't in a good financial place, then it means that I'm threatened and so many other ancillary agricultural sector workers are threatened. And with my job, that means wildlife suffers. So therefore, this APR thing is damaging to farmers, but ultimately it ends up filtering all the way down to people who, like us, who work with our hands. We get hit by this and the wildlife that we look after. I think it's really telling. The Prime Minister struggled to identify what a working person was. If he was here today and he looked out of that door there at Downing Street, he would see what working people are, because these are, if you like, the last remnants of proper getting your hands dirty working people left in this country. And so therefore Labour has left behind working people, and he would rather support the civil servants who work in buildings like this than he would these folks. And it's wrong, thoroughly wrong, and he should look again, because he's not a Labour man, he is a vindictive man.
So would you say that this policy breaks their promise not to raise taxes on working people?
Oh, most definitely. These are working people. Look, I earn half of what a train driver earns in a year. Am I not a working person? I live in a lovely big old house, but it leaks and it's cold and it's bloody hard to heat. I live in a place that some people might think is idyllic, but there's no buses, the roads are all full of holes, and when it rains everywhere floods, and when it snows the roads block up, and when it's hot everything's dusty. So this idea of a rural idyll, that we may be somehow fortunate because we live in the countryside, is a nonsense. Ours is a working place, the countryside, and he's taxing something which in their urban view is somehow a luxurious place, and it's not. It's my workplace, the countryside. Urban people like Labour Party look at it as a luxury living out.
Now, you said that in your work you protect the wildlife in your area. I wanted to pick up on that because we've heard that Labour potentially might want this policy to go ahead so that you can sell off parts of your farm to companies that will engage in carbon offsetting, more forests. What would you say to that?
Okay, carbon offsetting and biodiversity net gain is a bit of a sham, really. Because if you look at, say what my work is, I plant, well, I don't know what, about 8, 9, 10 kilometres of hedge each year. I would lay 5 kilometres of hedge each year. That's done for farmers. Now, a polluting company could, if they wanted to, assuage their guilt, either from the amount of carbon they produce, or say, for example, a large building company could supposedly offset the biodiversity loss that's happened by planting new. What these guys do on farms is they look after what is here in the now. And so therefore offsetting, as the Labour Party might want us to do, is, if you like, building a whole new house because the windows need a lick of paint. Now don't get me wrong, there are terrible things have happened under various administrations that have led to biodiversity loss. It is not farmers who have caused the biodiversity loss, it's the chase to cheap food so everyone's got it. If Labour address our food security and put more liquidity back into the rural economy, then farmers would have more money to spend on biodiversity gain themselves, on carbon sequestration, on the conservation work, but there's so little money in the rural economy that they are forced to do their primary role, which is growing food. So we are hamstrung. This notion that somehow it would free up more land is a nonsense. I'm part of a farm cluster of 6,000 hectares in mid-Suffolk. We're the only farm cluster who's ever actually assessed our entire hedgerow network. We know that there are over 60,000 kilometres of hedgerow on our 6,000 6,000 hectares. We've mapped every single one. We know the biodiversity that's in there. The farmers who manage that land, there's 14 family farms in that 6,000 hectares. They not only care about growing the food that we eat, but they care about the biodiversity that lives there, the nature that lives there. This is a tax not just on these 10, 20,000 people who are here, but it's a tax on nature. And I'm hearing silence from the RSPB, I'm hearing silence from the Wildlife Trust, I'm hearing silence from the National Trust, because they want to see these guys go under. And because they think that they could manage that land better. Well, if you gave us the money, as the previous administration was starting to do under ELMS, the Environmental Land Management Scheme, we were starting to get there. We were starting to turn a corner. But this is just ruined it. Rachel Reeves is literally killing wildlife with her actions.
Well, I hope that you're the advisor to Ed Miliband one day so he can learn that this is not the eco-policy he thinks it is.
Ed Miliband is like nearly all Labour politicians, is that they are, historically and contemporarily, an urban party. It's very easy for us to pull our flat caps down and say you don't understand our country ways. In this particular instance, they don't.
My friends, if you're still watching, thank you very much, and I've got a request for you. Thanks to viewers like you, Recent UK, we're on a roll. We're standing up to the woke brigade and championing British pride, especially for the next generation. We're one of the only voices out there that are actually targeting young Brits, seeking to wake them up from this lefty fog and reminding them of what it means to be British. And here's the deal. I want us to go further than that. I want to see Reasoned take on the mainstream left-wing media, a dominant culture here in Britain. We're aiming to expand with more presenters, with hard-hitting documentaries, with live events, with crash courses, the lot. But for that, we need you. We're picking one day to fundraise for this next level project, and that's where you at home come in. We're asking if you'd sign up to share our fundraiser link with your friends and networks on the big day itself. It's a small ask with the potential for a massive impact. Plus, the top fundraisers, you'll bag yourself exclusive goodies and a chance to meet some very special guests, VIPs. More importantly, you'll be standing with us, rallying young Brits to the values that make this country great, as much as the left try and destroy it. So if you're in, click the Google form in the description below, drop in your details, and I'll be in touch. Cheers very much. Let's make it happen together.